Hi, this is Keith with How to Build Your Own Home, and I get a lot of questions from a lot of subscribers, and these are just the past couple of weeks, and I respond to most of them, but I wanted to respond to this one because it's very important. And this is from Zach, and he asks, I would love to see a video about what to do if you get a bad builder and if they go over budget. Let me answer that directly. If you've got a builder and they're over budget, or even right at the start, and you haven't made any changes on the build, or even a minor change, just stop the build, sit down, have a talk with them, and ask them, hey, why did this go over? Where do we think we're going to go over in the coming weeks? That's the best way to do. Sit down and talk. Just sit down and figure it out and find out what's going on. Now, there's a lot of reasons why you could be over the budget, even at the start of the build, and I want to talk directly about that. A lot of it has to do with the budget. And when you get a budget from a builder, it's right here. All right, there could be some line items in the budget. And there are some builders that are more experienced at budgeting, some that are not as experienced in budgeting. And that's just a fact, just the way it is. And I think a lot of the reasons why people are over budget in their builds is because not everything is in the budget. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, and I've mentioned this before. The relationship between the client and the builder before a contract is even signed, it's kind of an adversarial relationship. The client's wanting a home for XYZ price, and the builder wants the job to build. Okay? So if the client's pushing on the builder that they want a price per square foot here, then the builder has an inclination to kind of tell you what you want to hear. And they may not include things in the budget to make it look like you can get the home built for that. How do you solve for that problem? How do you eliminate that hurdle right off the bat? Well, it has to do with your budget. Okay? So when you do get a budget from a builder, go get some other input. Get some third-party analysis of the budget. If you've got a lender and a bank, and if they're very experienced in giving lending out to contractors and builders, sit down with them and say, I know we qualified for this, but can you make sure that this budget is as detailed as it needs to be? Is there something missing? Is there something that looks off? Can you tell me? And sit down with them. Sit down with your lender, and they can give you some good feedback because they've seen budgets over and over again. So what I like to look for are line items that could be excluded, that are not quite there. For example, this here is a front door, and in my budgets, I do a custom line item for front doors, and I don't include the front door in the budget in the line item for all exterior doors. It's a separate, all by itself line item. Why? Because a custom front door like this can cost more than a traditional whatever door you can get off of the floor of any box store or just about anywhere. This is manufactured and custom built for the client. By the way, as a side note, because this has to be installed before siding and stucco and before drywall, when I put on a custom door like this, I seal it off, and I do not let my subcontractors go through the door because they can bang it up with bringing drywall and materials and their belts and their hammers. They just scratch up that door. So make sure if you do get a custom door, seal it off. But again, this is a good example of a line item that can be over budget because we didn't include that in the original budget. Another issue is over here. Let's go over here by the trench. There are a lot of areas in a budget that just don't have a line item. They don't have a cost included in the budget. Trenching for utilities is the number one reason. I see a lot of budgets that go over in some places, in addition to lumber and what have you. The reason being is because you'll get a bid from an excavator, and the excavator will say, okay, I got your pad ready, but they don't include footing, digging for the footings. They don't include trenching for utility lines. That could all be excluded. So again, in my budget, I have separate line items for each one of those to make sure that that is included in the budget. This is why people are over budget, is because they don't have line items for everything that is going to cost something. The number one area is framing. That could be over because we don't factor changes. You'll get plans, you'll get architectural designs and engineered designs, And they're going to need some adjustments. They're going to need fixing. I'm sorry, but the more custom home you have and the more changes in that you take place over a period of time, changing window dimensions, changing all, that's going to cost some stuff. So you're going to want a heavy contingency in the labor for framing and another contingency in the framing lumber. And at the bottom of the budget, more than anything, you're going to want a heavy contingency in the total cost of the build. And it could be 7%, it could be 10%. I've got this budget here for my students who use the program here at howtobuildyourownhome.com. Just go to there and it's in the self-managed package. You'll get that whole budget. And I've used this on over 100 homes now. I started creating this back in the day and when I built a lot of homes for the USDA, and I was under budget on 63 homes because I made sure I have coverage in areas that I really believe that I could go over or the costs could increase either in labor or in materials. So it all begins here. And if you are if you're educated about what every line item could surface or the cost of every line item, you're going to be much better off on a build. I've been through builds where I've had huge changes in the build. This is a job with a lot of changes. But I was able to cover most of them because I was able to have some padding in another number of spots. So it all starts here. It all starts with your budget. This is Keith Kelsch with How to Build Your Own Home.